Hello and good evening, everyone. My name is Yogesh. Thank you so much for joining this webinar. We have been conducting a series of webinars since April when the lockdown started, since March actually. And we have covered a lot of topics. We have covered about the oil crisis. We have discussed portfolios. We have seen the sectors which could recover during the pandemic. And there are a lot of other things which we have done through these webinars. So, once again, my name is Yogesh, and today's topic, what we'll discuss about, is firstly the investment outlook and the opportunities at the current moment. We are looking at a pandemic over here. In last few months, we have seen that there was a point when there was a lockdown going on, and now we have seen lockdown getting over in a lot of countries. And yes, the cases are still coming in. COVID is not completely gone, but then there have been a lot of movement in the markets in last 3 months. And the whole purpose of conducting this webinar is to first make you aware about how volatile the markets have been, and then discuss upon what kind of opportunities we are looking at. Because with volatility also comes the opportunity. If your risk properly managed, if the strategies which we are going to discuss, just go through these strategies and see how you can diversify your risk into different sectors, how you can use different kind of strategies to neutralize the effect of this market volatility. Because what is happening right now, a lot of investors have been asking this question, that how to navigate through this market swings. Because now normally there used to be a bull market, or there used to be a bear market. Of lately, what we have witnessed is more like a kangaroo market. We have seen markets going up and down and up and down, and this is something which is not a trend. Either there would be a bull rally or a bearish rally, but now there is a kangaroo which is going on. So under these kind of circumstances, when markets are so volatile, how can you, what kind of strategies you can look into? If you're looking at long term portfolios or long term equities, what kind of long term equities you can look at? So we are going to discuss all about that. Before we start, on behalf of Century Financial, my team, myself, a big vote of thanks to anyone who is connected to the healthcare and the medical industry, to all the doctors, first responders, midwives, nurses, anyone who has been out there risking their lives. Thank you so much. I wish all of you a good health. Uh, Please have a proper social distancing. I'm in a very enclosed cabin right now alone, so I'm not wearing my mask. But in our offices, in my office, there is a complete precautions which have been taken. So I hope you all are doing the same. Now, with this, we'll start our presentation. So, as I said, the very first segment will talk about how volatile the markets have been. We'll also discuss about the market opportunities, and we'll discuss about how to navigate from the market swings. We'll talk about some market neutral strategies within commodities. Okay, and then we'll have one small poll just to understand that what is your outlook on the commodities. So to begin with, now first we start, of course, with the disclaimer. What you need to understand is we are in a very, very highly volatile markets. So please ensure that within this volatility, whatever investments you uh, do not take a very high risk, because at the end of the day, markets are subjected to different conditions. They are really unpredictable. There can be a lot of analysts sitting and right now predicting what's going to happen, but at the end of the day, there are always uncertain events which cannot be captured. So do not take a loan or borrow money from anyone or leave your jobs thinking that you can make a lot of money in this. Okay, please be very careful. Whether you're taking leverage, be very conservative while you are taking leverage. Always follow a proper guideline. Talk to your market consultants, talk to your risk advisors, and they can surely assist you. Now, moving further, I said first we have to understand the recent volatility. What has been going on in the market, and how volatile the markets have been. And to measure this, there is something called volatility index, which is also called VIX. VIX is a fear gauge which is also available for trading. So if you're looking at the volatility index is actually most one of the most important instruments to understand the fear which is among the markets. So we have always uh, thought that volatility most often could be a bad sign for investors, because we always associate volatility with declining equity markets. But where there is anxiety and concern, the market swings can also bring a lot of opportunities. Now, when we are looking at different kinds of asset classes, we have seen that there is a lot of volatility along different asset classes. So that means to measure and to understand different asset classes, we need to understand their volatility also. Now, when we are talking about volatility index in specific, this particular index is measuring the volatility of S&P 500, which is a US stock market index, and they both are inversely connected. So if you're looking at S&P 500 going higher, you will see the volatility index coming down. Now, if we see in last 1 week, we saw that the measure of expected volatility on S&P, it fell back. It went below 29. Currently, it is trading around 25, but it remained in higher than the 90th percentile level of 28. If you see this chart in January, it was a very low, but see the spike which has come in the month of March 2020. Just to be very clear, the graph which you are looking at shows how fluctuating and how volatile S&P has been. Okay, and this is the fear. This is the measure of the volatility. So the graph which you see has just gone up in March. That shows the fluctuations in S&P. And while the volatility index was higher, we saw S&P crashing at the similar pace. So this particular movement shows you, and then this is where you can see the markets, the bottom, which happened in the mid of March, and by April we saw the volatility coming down, and then in middle of May, June, July, if you still see in the last 3 months, the graph of volatility, it has come down, but it is still way higher if you compare this in January and February and pre-COVID time. So that means we are still to experience a lot of shaking in the markets. We are still will be capable to experience a lot of potential movement in the market. So we have to be very careful, and by carefully analyzing the volatility index. So if I show you the next slide, see what has happened during COVID-19, how the volatility has actually gone. It has rose a lot. In March 2009, if you see in the beginning, sorry, yeah, here. So this is a chart in last uh, say 13 years, that during the time of recession, during the time of market crashes, where the volatility has been. Obviously, the spikes which you see are the times when S&P has crashed. The bigger spikes which you see is when the recession has happened. So if you see, there's a bigger spike in 2008, right? There's a slightly bigger spike again. So 2008 was the crash when it happened. If you go a little back, you'll be able to see 2001 when dot-com bubble. Even during that time, also we saw a spike in volatility, but the markets crashed. If you so from 2008, you see peaks in 2010. You see peaks between 2011 and 12. You see peaks in 2016. If you remember, 2016 is when the Chinese economy suffered a slowdown, and that brought even US equities down by 10 to 15%. So these peaks, what you see, are the times when market crashes, and when it bottoms out, it starts going up, and the volatility index starts coming down. So there's a peak which is formed. So many a times the analysts, they are studying the volatility index to understand whether the markets have bottomed down or not. Please make no mistake, it is incredibly difficult to time the markets. There are a lot of investors will talk about when we'll talk about how to navigate away from the swings of the market. We'll talk about which are the common mistakes that investors are doing. Most of the investors, they try to time the market, they try to bottom out that, okay, this is the bottom and this is where I should be buying. Cannot time the market. But when you're looking at the peaks which are formed, if you can see from 2016 and then 2019 and then before 2020 the pandemic happened, there are few peaks which have kind of formed a resistance. So if you could draw a horizontal line, you could easily see the peaks. So sometimes you can use the volatility index chart to try to find the most uh, near or most you can say the peak which has or the resistance where the markets crash and then bounce back, or the volatility index where it reaches to a point and comes down, because that will be an indication that markets are bottoming out. So if you see in 2020 again a spike which has came in the volatility index. This is something which has come during the COVID. The S&P crashed, volatility went up, and then again we saw the peak formation happening. If you see, there's a very prominent peak which formed and then started coming down. That is where from the markets started going up. So this is the volatility which, if you see in from 2008 to 2020, especially in last 10 to 12 years, we have seen a decade of market crashes. We have seen decades of rallies. So there are a lot of peaks being formed. The peaks really indicate that as soon as the market goes down, in the similar fashion, you see that there is a bottom and then there is an immediate spike. That's where the market starts moving higher. So this is also one thing which we will study. Now see, a bit of information on how many days it took to reach the bear market status in the S&P 500. If you see since 1982 till 2020, when the bear markets actually formed, if you see the historic volatility, it has always continued, whether it is Dow Jones, S&P 500. Uh, the trading days to reach a new bear market in 2020 was actually record breaking. It took hardly 16 to 19 days actually to come into a bear market. Just 19 days for this to take place. And it's a new record, because back in 2001, for a bear market, for S&P to be called into bear market, it took 417 days, which was the highest, followed by if you see back in 1973 or even before, even in 2008, it took 184 days for the bear market to form. So this is actually the fastest bear market, about 16 to 19 days. And we could see this, we could easily see this, because S&P was down almost 20% during the time when you see this particular chart. It was almost down by 20%, and now S&P has recovered. And this is something which is something to look at. When markets came down, immediately it started bouncing back. And if you see the volatility index in the previous chart, it went down and then it went up and then again it came down, leading to the formation of a peak. So for your information, both the S&P 500 and the volatility index is available on the platform to trade in. They both have the inverse relationship, so you can always compare the chart of the volatility against S&P 500. Now, coming to the point, every time there's a bear market, we have seen that there have been a history of recoveries. Now, what I'm telling you is, if you're looking at from the very first point, from the Great Depression, which started in 1929, 1930 till 1932, from a post World War II recession, Cold War, Vietnam tensions, embargo in Arab oil, recession, Black Mondays, dot-com bubbles, financial crisis 28. All these, if you can see, there was always a bear market there. But within the same time, if you see Great Depression, for example, from 1930 to 1932, this was a time frame. And this particular chart shows us that after every recession comes a long recovery. So if you see the drawdown here, 83%, for example, from the very first chart, the Great Depression, the maximum drawdown when the markets came down almost by 83%. And then the blue bar, which you see, the first one, it is the 1 year after the bear market ended. Then 5 year performance of the index when the bear market ended, and this is S&P 500 we are looking at. And then the 10-year performance after the bear market ended. So you could see that there is a drawdown of 83%, but the next 5 years, what we see, it's a growth of 263%. If you look at the next 10 years, there is another further growth. So this is something which we should always remember, that after every recession, after every market crash, there's a recovery which is followed, and recovery is way higher than the drawdowns. If you see the global financial crisis back in 2007, 2008, from 2007 to 9, it took almost, if you can see, there are durations given in months. So if you see in months, there are durations which are 4 months, it took 20 months, 21 months, 25 months, and last crisis, if you see, around 17 months to recover from this bear market. But the rally which followed after that recession, after that crash, so 57% drawdown when the markets came. But after the bear market was ended, the first year, market saw a growth of 67%. Next 5 years, it would see 176%. And next 10 years, the last bar, 300%. Moral of the story, when there's a crash, investors, they panic a lot that this is the time we should get out of the equities and just sit on cash. They try to time the market. But if you see historically, whenever there's a recession happened, as high as it is, 83% to 57% to 49% drawdown, the recoveries after that have been way higher. So you have to be patient. You have to understand that if you're looking at a long-term portfolio, if you're looking at the long term, these are durations. If you see the durations of the bear markets, 25 months, 20 months, 6 months, 19 months, 21, 39 months also. But the recoveries which go after that, we are looking at recoveries like 334% in 10 years, 300% in 10 years, 311% in 10 years. So even if you wait for the 5%, 5 years or 6 years, you could see a recovery happening as we are looking at the previous market declines. So this is something which is a very interesting chart, and always now we are into a similar situation. We saw markets going down. We are still seeing there is a lot of volatility, but markets have started going higher. Many people predicted that the earnings of the coming quarter will decline, but a few of the stocks like JP Morgan has shown strength in the trading revenue. The stocks have gone up. But when we see some mixed results by Citigroup, poor results by Wells Fargo, IBM of lately gave a very good result. While we are talking about results, I'm sure many of you must have seen or traded in Tesla of lately. So today, after the market close, Tesla will come up with its earnings. Huge volatility is expected. So please take necessary precautions if you have trades open. So this is something which you should always remember as a long-term investor. After every market decline, a history of recoveries is what we have seen over the next 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years, and you can see the numbers yourself. Now, please also, I'm sure there are a lot of people online right now, they're listening to me. If you have any questions and queries, please use the chat window to type. Any questions you have, I'll try to answer while we are discussing, or once the session ends, I'll be able to answer these questions. But please keep writing whatever questions are coming in. I'll scroll in the chat later on, and I'll try to answer these questions. If anybody who has attended my previous webinar, I see a lot of people. Some of you have attended my previous webinar also. The previous webinar was about outlook for gold. And we were discussing about how gold has been a safe haven during most of the market crashes. During that time, gold prices, the webinar was done last week, Wednesday, around 15th of July. So we'll go to the live platform also. We'll see how the gold prices have changed since last 1 week and what has happened to the equities markets also. Now, moving further, we need to understand how we can spot opportunity in volatility, right? There are a lot of ways where, so volatility is something, as I said, we could always be thinking about that how fluctuating markets can be a problem for us. But at the same time, when markets are moving up and down, there are a lot of investors who would be able to buy when it comes down and then sell when it goes up. So this is something which we always have to keep in mind, that with every volatility there will be coming an opportunity, but you have to understand that how to diversify your portfolio and which are the stocks or instruments you need to invest into. So the last segment which will come about navigating the market swings, will discuss that not only buying stocks and holding it brings you a perfect diversification, but there are a lot of other asset classes which can help you to diversify while markets are such volatile. So currently we are looking at a portfolio which have been drafted by our research team, and we'll be looking at these stocks individually, one on one, to understand that if these can be a part of your portfolio. Again, please remember this, the portfolio which has been prepared by the research team, they have taken into account the current market conditions. They have also taken into account the proper fundamentals and technicals. But as we all know that market risk always prevails, or any kind of portfolio or any kind of stocks you buy. So please understand your risk profile, understand your risk tolerance, and then move ahead with these companies. So what we did, we prepared a long-term portfolio with the help of a lot of research which the team has done. And the duration of this long term, many people, they have something in mind, that what is long term, what is short term, what is medium term. So we are looking at this long term portfolio, we are talking about a holding duration of more than a year. And so it is going to be minimum at least 1 year. Now, the allocations which we are looking at, so this has been divided into technology, it has been divided into industrial sectors, uh, commodities like water, some funds, some exchange traded funds within emerging markets, within Japan, within European economies. Equal allocation of your money to all these asset classes, right? So this is something which you can see. But as I said, please do your proper risk profiling. You have a certain amount of risk tolerance towards the market, so you have to figure that out and then try to invest into these instruments. Now, first thing, we'll be looking at a tech or industrial stock. So we'll be mostly talking about tech and industrial. We'll look at the names, we'll see a few of them in descriptions, and then we move on to ETFs, and then further try to identify other strategies also. Now, there are Bloomberg analysts which have been working also on these stocks. So what we have done is, our team has gathered a lot of research, and then they have also included the recommendation of the Bloomberg analyst, that what they think about this stock. Buy means they have suggested to buy. Sell means they are not suggesting it a buy, rather they would suggest it to sell it. They're expecting prices to go down. Hold comes when it is not decided. So first thing when we are looking at is, say for example, Alibaba. We're looking at the current market price. You're looking at the 52-week high, which is yearly high, yearly low, and then the recommendations. How many Bloomberg analysts recommended a buy? How many recommended a sell? How many recommended a hold? Please, so understand this way, that 52-week high means, and when I say yearly high or yearly low, that just means that we are looking at last 52 weeks. So if it is 22nd July today, I'm looking at 22nd July 2020, I'm looking at 22nd July 2019. So that will complete the 52 weeks. Similarly, we have Alphabet, we have Visa, we have PayPal. So to move further, we have diversified into some ETFs also. As we all know, ETFs are just like mutual funds, but then these are funds which can be traded on exchange. You can buy and sell this on your platform. So we are looking at exchange traded funds, what we call them. So we have diversified into different ETFs, and we'll go through each one of them one by one. So first, to begin with, will try to identify opportunity in the tech stocks. Now, tech stocks, when we talk about, there is a lot of buzz which we saw in Amazon, which we heard about Amazon. Amazon as a company, it has gone up. Along with Amazon, of course, there are other tech stocks like Netflix, Disney. All of them have rallied a lot even after the hit of the pandemic. But one of that stock, what we are looking at is Alibaba. Now, there are bullet points which I have put on the presentation to not make it much more cluttered. But if you request your relationship managers, they will be able to provide you a proper copy of this portfolio where a lot of description is mentioned. One thing which you need to, a few things you need to know about, within these bullet points. Now, first thing, if you look at this particular company, we are talking about increase in online sales over the second quarter. So in China alone, if you see, we have seen the online sales of physical goods, it has continued to go higher and higher. Even if from the last month, if you see year on year comparison also, it has actually increased by 25%. So last year till this year, if you see the increase in the online sales, it has gone up by 25%. Even this, if you see in last month of May, it was 22%. In April, it was around 16%. The entire quarter, the second quarter, collectively, if I would see, there's a jump of 21% from the same quarter a year ago. So this is something, if you compare the two quarters of 2020, the second quarter total online sales has gone up by 6%. This is something which is really good because China's e-commerce is very well positioned to gain share of retail dollars with the potential for more permanent shifts in consumer buying behavior. And Alibaba in itself, it takes a massive, massive share of the e-commerce pie because it is not only growing like twice as fast, but if you see, there are two other platforms, Tmall and Taobao, they have already gained more than 50% of the China's online retail sales. So this is something which is really good. And if you see other few points, what we are discussing here, strong cloud computing business. So even if you see their cloud computing, it is a very growing area. They have a very strong cloud computing business. In terms of technology, if you compare Alibaba and its peers, Alibaba is growing way higher. Even if you see other growth sectors, like whether it is marketing or whether it is entertainment, media, digital payments, across all these segments, Alibaba is gathering a lot of data to help the business market brands. So this is something which gives Alibaba a very good competitive advantage. And again, we are looking at this as a long-term sector. So what we understand is there is a good growth in the e-commerce industry from in China within. Even if you see compare the quarter on quarter, if you see the same quarter a year ago, if you see quarter in 2020, their cloud computing business is growing really well among all its peers. If you see their other segments like marketing, branding, entertainment, they are doing way better than their competitors. So this is a kind of a very strong competitive advantage for Alibaba. You can always look at the targets and the prices which the research team has mentioned, or you can always call your relationship manager to have on a more discussion on this, that what is the target price and what is the expectation. Followed by the company which we all know, Alphabet. Alphabet is something which so Google, many of you, if you're not aware about what Alphabet is, so it is the parent company of Google, and there were different former subsidiaries of Google also. So Alphabet became the parent company. And if we see the bullet points, we are talking about growing revenue at an average rate of 20% per annum. So Alphabet, guys, if you will see in year on year, it is a really blue chip growth stock, and their revenue have actually grown around 20% on an average per annum, 20% plus basically. And there's 70% share of the global search advertising, it goes to Google. So there are they have a lot of subsidiaries in high growth markets. If you see Google right now, Alphabet in itself, they have so many subsidiaries and they are involved into growth sectors like autonomous driving, for example, or cloud computing. If you see Amazon and Microsoft in cloud computing, Google Cloud is number third. So this is something which is really good because their cloud division is actually expected to post 50+% sales growth over the next 3 years. They also have a lot of franchises. If you see Android or Chrome or Waze, Waymo, all these franchises, they belong to Alphabet. They're also trying to monetize Google Maps, Gmail, and not to forget, they have this huge $100 billion cash reserves, which are still there, and they are ready to use this for an enhanced share buyback program. And buyback of shares is something which is very positive for stock. So Alphabet is something again which you are looking forward for a long term. So as I said, guys, I have just put bullet points which are there, but then for much more detailed explanation, what I'm telling you, the same thing you can ask for the portfolios with your relationship managers, and they can always send it to you through emails. Now, moving forward, another company which we are looking from a long-term perspective, we are looking at Visa. And Visa is, again, so when we talk about strength in the digital processing or payment processing, Visa has this dominant market share. Uh, Even during the slowdown, if you see now also, back from 2008, there was a last crash which happened in 2008. And from 2008 to 2018, in 10 years also, during that time when the slowdown remained throughout, because 2016 there was the China issue, 2008 there was the recession overall. So between 2008 and 18 as well, Visa kind of increased its credit card market share, and they had a big network purchase volume. It went up by 10%. Their share now is 53%, and dollar amount, if you see, it has crossed almost $2 trillion in 2018, which is way higher in 2008, because in 2008 it was around 824 billion, and now it is around $2 trillion. So this is, Visa right now is at a space which is very, very difficult to disrupt. And when you're looking at global opportunities, there are 70% of transactions in the world which happens in cash. So Visa is also trying to develop an infrastructure in Africa, in Middle East, Southeastern Asia, just to improve its access to the lines of credit cards and their overseas growth. This is something which is really important. That is actually pushing the stock higher. So this is something which again you can always look into. And Visa does not act as a lender, so this is much more important because they're not exposed to any credit delinquencies if the recession strikes, right? So this is some useful information which you can always keep in mind. Guys, again, if you have any questions, I see a lot of people here. So if you have any questions, please keep writing on the chat and I'll be available to answer. I'll be trying to answer while I'm doing this session, or once the session is over, I will answer these questions. Now, moving further, we understood Visa, we talked about Alibaba, we talked about Alphabet. Now, jumping faster towards PayPal. Now, PayPal is another last segment in the tech stocks, and then we'll look into some ETFs also. You can always look at some industrial stocks once you receive the portfolio. But with tech, PayPal is also something which has brought this revolution. If you look at the numbers of PayPal, it is really impressive. And numbers, they are the fundamental part of the entire analysis. Now, all these payment stocks, they're actually really expected to outperform in the foreseeable future, because when we are looking at cash or mobile payments is something, the trend is increasing, and PayPal is very well positioned to outperform these lines. If you see their 2019, they ended with a 305 million active accounts. Now if you see over a period of time, they have, their customer base has exceeded, it has gone up by 52 million active accounts. This is important. They also have, if you see now, the next point what we are supposed to discuss is about their acquisitions. So their entire customer experience is enhanced, one, through its acquisitions which they have taken. So I'll give you one example. uh, Among many acquisitions of PayPal, one of them is Honey Sciences. Now, Honey Sciences, this is a digital shopping and rewards platform. So, what will happen is you are shopping through one of these platforms, and if you're shopping X amount of things, you will get different rewards, different points. So, this enhances your entire customer experience. Also, you look at. I'll give you another example of such kind of acquisition. GoPay, for example. GoPay makes PayPal the very first foreign payment platform to be licensed to provide online payment services in China. Now, this is important because if you see the payment market in China, it is expected to double to around $3 trillion in the next 4 years. This is a huge opportunity. If the expectation, so if you're looking at the payment market in China, and if it is expected to double, the GoPay, which was a recent acquisition of PayPal, this will become the first foreign payment platform to be licensed. They have also reached to another agreement with UnionPay. They have around 7.5 billion cards on their network. And if you see the overall, PayPal is very attractive and it is riding these emerging trends in digital payment. So these are few points which, again, as I said, they're making this stock looking good for the long term. And the kinds of fundamentals which we are discovering, you can always check at your end. You can always verify these numbers. There is a lot of information which has been, a lot of research which has been put to find these. So these are few tech stocks which can be really good. Let's look into some ETFs, because at the end of the day, many investors asked last time, like for example, when it comes to commodities, should I directly invest into a commodity or should I invest into a fund which is allocating some of my funds to the commodity and others to companies? So exchange traded funds are always a good way during this pandemic time, and once we slowly go into the era where lockdown is now completely over, we are looking at a lot of economies now reopening, so there will be a lot of volatility. So whether it is good to expose yourself to an individual stock, or you can also invest into some ETFs, the answer is diversify among all of this. You invest into some individual ETF. You could definitely buy into some stocks. You can definitely involve yourself into some ETFs also. How we actually do it? Okay, somebody just asked me a question. Do we suggest the stocks like Alibaba, Visa, or Alphabet for long-term investment or day trading? So the portfolio is actually for the long term. As far as day trading is involved, in day trading, you will not normally look at these fundamentals, that what are their future plans, how much cash it has generated. If you're looking for day trading, then you are just trying to price the volatility. So for day trading, you would look rather at, you can always day trade in these stocks because it gives a really good movement. I mean, Alphabet in itself gives you a very good movement. But then Alphabet, when you're looking at, for day trades, you don't have to look at these fundamentals. I mean, the fundamentals, what is going to happen in the next few months, or what is happening in the next 1 year, that will not decide whether you should trade Alphabet today or not. So I would suggest you that you can look into support and resistances. We'll try to go through the chart once this session is over and see that how we can identify strong supports to enter and strong resistance to get out or take an exit. Is the recorded session, can we watch it later? Of course, session is recorded completely. It will be put on YouTube as well. So if you are not able to hear me properly, if there's a network congestion, if you have to go somewhere, don't worry about it. The session will be recorded and you can always view this later. Now, going further with ETFs. So we'll understand what are the opportunities which are available in exchange traded funds. First, let's talk about emerging markets. Now, emerging markets, one very big problem for the emerging markets throughout these few years was a stronger US dollar, because we saw a lot of times dollar was so strong that it put all the emerging markets underperforming. And this was one of the major factors behind the underperformance of emerging markets, being US dollar so strong. Because if you see the dollar index also, it rallied from 77 to 96. And this era of US dollar now, it might be coming to an end because European Union has introduced this huge stimulus, which is a fiscal stimulus, and it's a game changer because now we have seen euro rallying from its previous lows, and day on day we see a high in euro. So that has made dollar more weaker, and this stimulus is expected to continue. It's a fiscal stimulus by government, so it is expected to continue. So we might see a weak dollar in the coming few months, and that makes emerging markets a pretty important and focused area. And if you see even individual countries like China, for example, so even China and India, they did not perform well in USD terms. Now, perhaps it is the time that for a longer period of time, we can invest into these economies, because over a period of a few months or in the coming year, we will see the service sector in China could be really growing, and that would propel the economic growth. And if you see India has of lately deleveraged their balance sheets. Deleveraging the balance sheets or corporate balance sheet means trying to get rid of their debts, and it's a very painful process, as we all know. So this process is now almost complete. So we might again see Indian equities again could be really important. They are really cheap in US dollar terms. And then again, if you see economies like Brazil and Russia, again emerging markets, so major capacity additions, lack of major capacity additions in commodities, that is again something which can support Brazilian and Russian equities also. So emerging markets ETF is, it can be a really good vehicle, and because you're investing through a fund, you're investing in a fund, so that will give you exposure to not only one market, but we are talking about China, India, Brazil, Russia, and other economies also. So there's a ETF for Taiwan as well, and a lot of other emerging markets. So this is again something which you can always have a look on. Going further, we are looking at Vanguard FTSE Europe ETF. Now, we just talked about how euro has become stronger as a currency after European Union has introduced this huge stimulus. So if you see even this particular ETF also, we are looking at first, let's see what has happened. European Commission has planned to deploy around 750 billion euros, right? That is something which is really, really good. If you see European Central Bank, they are also talking about increase the size of their bond purchase program. This is something which previously European Central Bank, they resisted a lot, but now we have seen them doing a lot of stimulus. They're increasing the size of their emergency bond purchases. Earlier, it was, if you see, I think they are increasing it by 600 billion euros. Now, this is important because the whole program now is worth 1.35 trillion euros, and these purchases would run until 2021, the month of June. 6 months longer than originally what it was planned. And they are also, the last thing which we can discuss, they're trying to reinvest the bonds which are maturing right now, and those bonds also will go into this pandemic emergency purchase scheme, and this will last till at least 2022. So this is like this humongous amount of stimulus which is coming from Europe, and that makes this particular ETF promising. For more details, what are the holdings in this particular fund, you can easily search on your web browser, or you can call any of our relationship managers, and over the phone they will tell you that which are the holdings this particular ETF is looking ahead with, right? Again, guys, I'm getting a lot of questions as well. I'll be able to answer these questions in a short while. Please be with me. Now, next, Invesco S&P Global Water Index ETF. So, guys, water is something which is really precious. I'm sure there are many of you who would feel that water can be a really good commodity to invest into in the coming future time. And this particular fund, it follows a strategy where all the companies which are into water industry, water utilities, infrastructure companies, water equipment, material companies, this particular fund focuses on those. So you can invest into a global water index ETF also through the platform. Next, and the last one in the ETFs, we are looking at the Japanese ETFs. Now, again, just avoid the description. I will, one second, not this one. Yeah, sorry. Now, when you're looking at the Japanese ETF, the Bank of Japan, they have continued to add to its portfolio of Japanese assets, which includes a large chunk of the country's equity ETF, unleashing a mammoth $1 trillion of fiscal spending. So, again, as I say, there are a lot of governments which are putting stimulus in their economies, and equity market in itself, that is one major reason that why we have seen a lot of push in equities, especially in European equities, in Japanese equities, in US equities, because there's a lot of additional funding which is being provided by central banks, by governments also. So this is something, again, these are few sectors where you can invest. There are a lot of opportunities. So what we understood throughout this program, that you can invest into stocks, you can invest, divide into tech, industrial, you can invest into ETFs of emerging markets, you can invest into Japanese based, water based ETFs. These are some unique trading investment opportunities which you can always look. And you have to give yourself a rationale, you have to give yourself a reason that why I should be doing this. Now, going further, navigating from the market swings. Last time when I was conducting a webinar, someone who was there as an attendee, they asked me that we are talking about gold. They're talking about investments in gold. We are talking about making gold a part of our portfolio. But why it should happen? Gold is one of the most volatile assets. It happened 2011. It was 1900. Then it came down for the next 8 years. It never went back to 1900. Till now, when we see that again, the gold prices have gone up higher. It is 9 years high, and this is something which we have to understand what has been happening. So when we talk about market swings, we talk about volatility. To navigate from the market swings, we have to keep in mind few very strong points. And one thing is, why I'm talking about gold right now, is because the first step you should remember about navigating from the swings is maintaining a diverse portfolio. Assumption is very simple. We all seek to maintain a high level of diversification in our investments most of the times. And it is said that diversification is the only free lunch in finance. So when we are talking about diversification, one thing which you should really understand, we're not talking about diversification just in equities. It's not that okay, you invest into tech sector, but you also need to invest into material, utility, consumer discretionary. That is given. That is what you have to do. But over here, I'm talking about a much more enhanced asset class diversification. If you're investing into equities, a part of you should be in a part of your funds should be diversified into different asset classes, like commodities also, right? Indices again becomes equities, agro-based commodities, energy-based commodities. So this is something which we need to understand. We are talking a lot about gold, we are talking a lot about silver. If you see the movement gold and silver has given in the last few weeks, I will take you further to this chart. Let me just finish the steps how to navigate from the market swings. Now, first thing is you diversify into bonds, you diversify into equities, you diversify into commodities. Returns can be different, but that doesn't mean that if this asset class gives me lower returns, then I should not diversify into it, because there's a possibility that if equities are going down, then maybe your gold prices are going higher, so you might be able to hedge that kind of risk also. So this is something which you should do. Second thing, please do not, I told you in the beginning, please do not try to time the markets. Timing the markets, and see, no one will ever be able to reliably call that okay, this is the bottom or this is the top. Even using the volatility index, we can only predict that okay, the peak formation is happening, so this could be the bottom, but there will never be the right time. You cannot always time the bottom or the top. For that matter, investors, if I talk to investors, they will always deny that they are trying to time the market. But what they will also do is they keep selling shares, and then they take out the cash, and then they're sitting on the cash at this point of time. I'm talking to a lot of people, and some of them, they're telling me that right now I'm just sitting on cash because market is overvalued currently. It might come down, then I will buy. You don't know. You can never bottom, whether no matter how experienced you are. You could be lucky with that. That I give you. You could be really lucky with that. The moment you pushed in your funds, you bought some shares, it went up. You can really be lucky, but you cannot always time the market. So for those investors who would sell their equities at the time and then sit on cash and then again wait for the equities market, that this is where the bottom is, this is where I will try. Always be invested. I myself say that if you have a big portfolio, if you're looking at a 10 to 15% growth, just book your profits and get out. But never be ideal, never keep all your cash at one place. Always remain invested into futuristic stocks. Let's say if you're looking at tech stocks like Tesla or Netflix, if it has already given you a percent 30, 40, 50% return at no point of time because they moved this much, sure, you book your profits and easily get out, but at least be invested into some long term equities, because this is something which you have to do for your long term investments. And then there are some medium term and short term investments. So always be remain invested. Don't think that I will time the market, I will take all my money out from everywhere and then wait till I bottom this out. So to perfectly examine the exit and entry, it is highly unlikely. So if you don't need the liquidity, then don't try to sell the equities and move the cash as a reaction on the bear market. Just hold it, because now what we have understood is with every bear market or recession follows a rally which is way higher than the maximum drawdown, right? Next, you can always rebalance your portfolio. See, you are anyways diversifying, and you're not you have a diverse portfolio, you are not inclined to time the market, so that's okay. Best action most investors can actually take is to be disciplined, and they can keep rebalancing their portfolios to maintain the diversification. Now rebalancing means it will require you, so sell the things after they have performed well, buy things that are performing poorly. So when I say performing poorly, which means if the stock has come down to a level, it's a good company, but it has performed poorly and it has come down, as a good potential, you buy those. Most investors, they would buy equities during when we see market crashes. Some of them, they will always be out, they are loss averse, they will see that I don't want to enter into. But if you have a portfolio of stocks, what I told you, that if you have few stocks which have given you a lot of return, and then you have few stocks which have come down, so book the profits where you can. But the ones which have come down, and any new stocks which have come down, but if they're good companies, then it's a good time to buy. At least start with a dollar cost averaging. Don't buy at once, but at least invest a little amount, and then just monitor. But please do not keep the shares which have performed well, that also you are keeping in your portfolio. Then you're keeping a set of stocks which are not performing well, that also you're keeping in your portfolio. It's not like that. If you've got a decent return, book your profits and keep holding the shares which are not performing well or which have come down, if these are good companies, not companies like Wirecard, or companies like for example Weatherford, or any one of those which showed very poor performance. So these kind of things you can always look at. So when we talk about market swings, also now you know few things about, you have to diversify, you have to rebalance your portfolio, you should not try to time the markets out. What else you should do? I told you about stocks portfolios, I discussed about volatility also, but what else you should do? Something which is away from the regular conventional bit. Now, this is where I will discuss with you about some spread arbitrage strategies. Again, before I show you these strategies, uh, these are designed keeping in mind the market conditions, and the price anomalies which occurs during these market conditions can go either way. So I would suggest you that first you understand this, how it is done, and then you move on and try these in your portfolios. But please understand this, that risk will always prevail. Obviously, these price anomalies can go into the either direction. What we do is at best try to look at the historical patterns and show you that how it has performed historically and what could be the expectation, right? So I will have to use my platform also for the same, and this will be the last topic which we'll discuss for the day. And then if you please, as you have some questions, please let me know and I will be able to answer you that. So with this, let me just switch to the platform, or at least first, let's switch it to the strategy. Okay, here. So right now you're looking at the platform, you're looking at the live trading prices. Uh, let's start directly here first with gold. Now, last week, when we were discussing gold, 15th of July, when I conducted the session, that time we were looking at a different price altogether. So it's very easy. If I want to see what happened on 15th of July, all I have to do is just zoom in and use my cursor. 9th, 10th, 13th, 14th. This is 15th of July right here. If you can see the dates with a very, very small font over there, this is 15th of July. The price of gold on 15th of July was 1809. When we were discussing about how gold has been a safe haven, few more points where we talked about the demand for gold has increased and the supply of gold has continued to go down. At the same time, we talked about reduced interest rates, a lot of stimulus, a weaker dollar, which is also contributing in gold prices, not to mention the pandemic uncertainty, which is a part of this. After 1809, back on 15th July, we are talking today on 22nd, exactly 1 week. From 1809, gold price has gone up to 1862. From 1809 to 1862. Now, this is the commodity market. During this time, stocks have been kind of flat. If we see, there has been a movement in equities market. So if I see S&P 500, so I'll just search SPX 500 here. Let's see the same last 1 week movement. I'll just zoom in this chart and show you here. 10th, 11th, 12th, 14th, 15th. 15th of July, S&P was 3215, 3215, and now it is 3259. So not really a big percentage movement. If I see percentage movement in gold and percentage movement in S&P, gold has moved by a higher percentage. Even silver prices have moved up really by a higher percentage. So this is what we were discussing last time, that if you are buy on equities, a possible diversification could be as a hedging instrument, uh, a trade or an investment done in gold. Gold is been trading on a 9-year high, and this is important. If I show you the performance from 2011, so 2010, sorry, this is S&P 500. Let's see gold. Now we are looking at 5 years. Let's see here. Now what you are looking at currently, a formation since 2011. So we saw gold in 2011, it was priced 1793 here. So if you see the highest what gold has seen, this price here, which is 1918. After that, we saw this resistance which has been broken in 2020, because there were a lot of resistances which were formed between 2000. If you see this, from 2013 till 2019 till here, there was a breakout which happened in gold. If you see this right here, here there's a breakout which happened here and it continued to go up, and now there's another breakout which has happened here. Because if you see these resistance, most of the time gold technically would touch this peak, again another peak, again another peak, and it came down, and then for a long period of time over the last 6 to 7 years it has touched these peaks again. Now the lower resistance was formed, a different range was formed for gold, and we could see this week on week. And you're looking at week on week candles. This is like a huge trend which, see this here. The S which I'm putting here, all these is from where it touches and it comes down. And here what has happened is this resistance has been broken, it went up, and then this resistance now has been broken and it is trading at 9 years high, almost reaching to the previous top of 1907. So gold has given a big percentage increase in last 1.5 years. So this is something, guys, this is important to see how gold prices have reacted. Now, previous session we talked about how gold can be used as a hedge, because it has acted as a safe haven for a long period of time. Investors do not find the same comfort in US dollar now, so gold has been the favorite. Today we will learn a strategy within gold uh, which involves a spot and a future contract. And this benefit and this strategy is based on the price anomalies which happens between a spot and a future. To discuss more about spot and future, we can always have one-on-one personalized sessions and we can go deep into the market. Just as the last segment, I would like to share it with you. If you see the gold cash, which is gold spot, price of 1862. Similarly, if you see price of gold December contract, $1890. There's a difference between these two contracts. If you look at the same time gold current contract, which is gold August. Now, what I wanted to show you was this, because this is the most important thing. Gold August contract is the current future contract which is going on, and if you see the price difference between both the instruments, it is 1862 spot, 1863 is future. You'll be surprised to know the price difference between these two contracts a few days ago, it was more than 15. Future was at a premium, spot was at the price. So the idea how this works is, let me share the flyer with you and it will be much more clearer. I hope everyone can see this. Yes. So now you are looking at a price movement. Second. Yeah. Now this is gold spot and December future strategy. Again, these are a form of arbitrage. This is a spread arbitrage. It's a price anomaly which we are looking at. Just be with me and try to understand this. In a spread arbitrage, what we normally try to do is exploit the price difference between the gold cash and the future contract. When we were doing this, we were doing between gold cash and gold August when the price difference was more than $15. So you could short sell the future, buy the spot, and gain on if the price, because the price of the future, when the expiry of the future comes closer to its date, the future price most of the time tends to converge with the spot. So if you see the August contract expiry, it is on 31st of July, which is very close in the next 8 to 9 days. So from the big difference of more than 15, now the difference has come to hardly $2 or $3 or hardly $1. So this is where the price has now started converging because the expiry is coming nearby. So the idea is that you short sell the future and you buy the spot. The one which is overpriced, you short sell it. The one which is underpriced, you buy. So the idea is, if this is your future, you short sell it. This is your spot, you buy it. You wait till the prices converge. So the short selling, if it comes down, you book a profit on short sell. If this comes up, you book a profit on buying. So the idea is, when the gap gets reduced is where you make money. Now the difference between gold cash and December currently is around $29, right? So what we are looking at is, so this flyer was prepared on 16th of July. Today is 22nd. So currently, if we see, I'm sure it might have gone up. We could get a good entry price. So this is gold spot and gold December contract. So all of you, if you have your demo account, you could see gold December contract. So the current spread between spot and the December is $27. And what we saw here when this flyer was being prepared, the current was $29. So it has come down by 2, which is again a good thing, because that is the idea behind the strategy, that once the spread reduces is where you need to do the trade. Now somebody just asked, it is difficult to judge when to open spread. Absolutely right. So because what we are doing is, we are just looking at a big price gap. So we are trying to understand that, okay, if I open one trade, and what if the gap increases? So this is an absolute risk, which is, I completely agree. If I open buy trade and then it keep going up, then it's a loss trade. So exactly. So a concern has been shown here. Somebody asked me that it's very difficult to judge when to open the spread, and if I open the buy trade and then it keeps going up, then it's a loss trade. So guys, this is something which we have to understand first. What we are looking at is the historical price differences between their spots and the futures. Of lately, when pandemic happened, the price gap even elevated a lot. So we have seen that risk coming in, but what we have to do is rely on the historic view. These are few market neutral strategies which are different from the day speculation, right? So if you buy gold on a day trade and put a stop loss, that is a normal speculation. Strategies like this have shown good performance in the past, but obviously they are not completely away from the volatility, right? So there is, for example, always a possibility futures and spots might not converge. It has happened in the past, because when there is a high volatility, you always have to keep your margins well funded. Okay, there is a holding cost also which is taken into account. Now see, just understand this particular scenario. The chart which you are looking at, there was a resistance line which was formed. So if you see this red line which is kept from 2019 till the current, the highest spread which has gone, somewhere most of the time, if the spread reaches 40, it comes down. Highest it has gone is 69, but a proper resistance where the spread, the price gap between spot and future, when it touches 40, it touches 40 and comes down. So it has happened of lately also. It touched 40 and now it is down to 28, right? So most of the time the trades are to be taken around these areas. Currently, gold spot in December spread is trading 29. Right now it is 27, what we saw. Lowest in the last 1 year, it has been minus 20. Highest, it has been 70. So you're looking at a very high window over here. Intraday high was more than $90 in the month of March. As we can see in the charts, spread took a resistance near 35 and is expected to again contract towards the lower end of the range. See, this now when we see that gold is so volatile, why not? We were talking about rebalancing, we were talking about diversifying. So if gold arbitrage, we have seen a lot of volatility. There are a lot of investors, by the way, which are still doing it, but then a proper understanding of the risk is needed. You come to the offices, and the market consultant will be able to explain you how to do this. Quantities are of the key importance. If you're doing 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 ounces, again, you have to keep that much margin. So you are increasing your risk. You have to keep that much funds. If you're keeping 100, 200 ounces, again, from the lowest, then your risk is relatively less. Also, what I would suggest you, if you gold exposure I showed you, there is also a silver arbitrage which can also be done, again depending on the ratio. See, silver is not as expensive as gold. So silver spot futures spread was at 37 cents when this flyer was prepared. Lowest in the last 1 year, it has been 16. Highest has been 89 cents, right? So now we are looking at silver cash and silver September contract. So this time when it was prepared, the silver prices were around 18, but of lately in last 1 week, it has actually gone up a lot. Again, the strategy is very simple. You long cash, which means you buy the cash and you short sell the future, because future is at a premium. So you short sell the future, you buy the cash, and the idea is when the spread narrows, it can result in the profit. Yes, if the spread gets wider, there will be a loss. So you have to understand the risk profiling. What we are relying on is we are relying on the historic principle of that most of the time the spot and the future spreads, they converge most of the time. So that's where your risk element comes in. So as I said, when we are talking about navigating from the market swings, if if the markets are moving too volatile, we have to find out different strategies. We cannot be connected to just daily speculation, put a stop loss and do what it takes. It's not like that. First, you have to invest a part of your portfolio into futuristic stocks, some long term. Then you can always go for day trades, as somebody suggested that if I want to do day trades in these stocks, you can. Earning season currently is one of the best times to do day trades, given that you're putting a stop losses and risk measurement tools. Because when earnings come out, the stock movement which happens is exceptional. You might not see the same movement over the whole 1 year, but you'll be able to see that during that one day. So right now the earnings season is going on. There are a lot of stocks which have still not come up with their earnings and they're still due. Tesla is one of them, as I said. So you can always look into day trades, talk to your market consultants and find out a strategy. So long-term stocks, day trades, day trades could be in commodities, could be in stocks, could be in indices also. Also, you can look into strategies like these arbitrage, because these price anomalies not happen every time. So when it happens, we always try to capitalize on it. Yes, there is a risk involved, so just be aware of that. For much better understanding, you should talk to the consultant, and there is always a right way to do this. So with that being said, please, if anybody has any questions, can write it here on the chat. And before you guys leave, just please answer this poll. How many of you think that the gold price will go higher? I have just shown you the chart. I've shown you what is happening, what has happened in the last 1 week. I've shown you what happened in last 8 years, 7 years, looking at the market volatility. Okay. Before you leave, this is just the last poll, guys. So if I would really appreciate if all of you can vote for this. Currently, I see most of you are still favoring gold prices. Okay, that's an interesting percentage I'm looking at. Honestly speaking, if anybody has attended the last webinar and still here, you would see the difference in the gold prices a lot. And please take demo accounts from your relationship managers just to even track the real-time movement of the commodities and currencies and stocks. Okay, I'll take 10 more seconds before I end the poll and you could see the results. 5 more seconds. Anybody who wants to vote can go ahead. Done. So I'll end this poll. I hope everybody can see the results. 60% think yes, gold prices will go higher. 40% think gold prices may not go higher. So see the opinion which is divided among our group. So just feel that how the rest of the market sentiments move on a very similar direction. So that's why diversification is needed. You can be speculative on the commodity, but then don't forget to invest into gold ETFs. You can take exposure in gold commodity not as a direct commodity, but you can invest into gold mining companies in the form of ETFs. And there are a lot of ETFs which are available. Please join us for a one-on-one session later on, and we can always talk about other opportunities also, right? Some of you are asking for a demo account. Please call your relationship managers. They will be able to provide you a demo account. Uh, Also, somebody asked about how to open the account. Opening the account, again, please talk to your RMs. Opening account is very easy. It takes 2 days. Your normal document submission, passport, visa, and address proof, and the account can be opened. But before opening the account, before doing anything, I would suggest let's have a one-on-one session. So any one of you who have any specific queries and you think you want to ask later on, please talk to your RMs and book a session one-on-one with me or with any of the consultants, and we will be able to provide you a live demonstration of the platform. We'll talk about drafting portfolios, and all this is absolutely free of cost. So anyone who needs a private session, one-on-one session, just talk to your RMs, and we will discuss this one-on-one with the live platform, right? Please also, you can ask for the portfolio which I discussed, which has much more detailed description, which we have been discussing. And even these strategies which are related to gold spot and futures, silver spot and futures, you can always take these strategies and try to use this in the demo account. Anything which you have doubts, just try to use this in the demo account, or talk to somebody, they will help. Anything which you have doubts, just try to use this in the demo account, or talk to somebody, they will help you out. Till then, please stay safe, uh, maintain social distancing. Even when you're in your offices, please maintain social distancing. Take a very good care of yourself. Hope to see you soon in a one-on-one session. Uh, Once again, we'll meet next week with a different topic. We are talking about, we are soon to have a technical analysis session where one of our advisors, one of our market consultants, Mr. Vivian, will be there to show you that how historical charts and patterns could be used to analyze or understand the future trends. So do not miss that session. Please come. Till then, stay safe and, of course, stay invested. Thank you so much.